Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. I see you. Lurking. Okay, so we had a great update from the financial staff to lead us off this morning. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. And we're going to talk about, I love analogies. You're going to get to know this about me. And we're going to talk about what's your lane. And we're going to start out by looking at this crazy turnpike, right? Where the heck would you be on this thing? I can't even tell you which direction each of those lanes is going, right? Total chaos. So go ahead and jump to the next slide, Corey. So we're going to talk about what's your lane. And by what's your lane, I mean, what's your role? Where do you fit? What are your parameters for driving at your district? Keep in mind, I built this and I delivered this presentation aimed at district managers, but this really works for every position at the district, figuring out what your lane is. So we're going to talk about some keys, going along with the driving analogy. We're going to talk about some keys to your lane, and then at the end, a few resources of places you can go to help you sharpen your skills driving in that way. So next. There is a lot going on that machine right there. So everybody keep your fingers crossed. It's going to keep working for Corey. So first, and this may sound ridiculously obvious, right? It's your position description. And I love this little Peanuts cartoon where Snoopy was duped. He didn't realize that what was expected of him as a dog in the job description, right? So this is key. What's written in your job description, it should at least have the general pieces of work you're expected to perform at your district. When was the last time you looked at it? Do you have one, right? It's okay. You don't have to admit if you don't have one, but you should have one, trust me, right? You got to have one. Pull it out. Dust it off, take a look at it. Is it accurate? Are you doing what it even says? Do you need to update it, right? Your first key to figuring out what your lane is at your district is your job description, your PD, your position description. Super important, right? You got to know where that's at. Second piece that's key is a delegation of authority. So what on earth am I talking about when I'm talking about a delegation of authority? It could look like different things at different districts, and that's okay. Usually it's a piece of paper with writing on it, usually in addition to your job description, that's going to delegate certain tasks or duties or responsibilities to you and some limitations on those, right? So here's some examples. For example, as a district manager, you could have a delegation of authority that says, you can sign contracts on behalf of your district up to a dollar threshold on that contract. Maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $10,000, maybe it's more, whatever the comfort level is at your district. That would be a delegation of authority. Usually that's in addition to what's written in your job description. Another one might be a task delegated to you. You can sign off on a grant or funding applications for your district. They don't have to go to the board. The board has said, you, Jennifer, can sign these and send them in. As long as those are implementing the board approved annual and long range plans. That's another example of a delegation of authority. It could be any flavor of task that the board or your supervisor, so if you're not in that manager role, your supervisor has said, you're responsible for this, and they put it in writing. If it's verbal, that's nice. But if there's some sort of misunderstanding down the road, it becomes he said, she said, right? Not a good place to be. You want it in writing. So that second key is any delegation of authority that exists for your position. For a manager, that's really important. Usually there's a lot of things that roll up to the manager level at your district. The third key, so go ahead and, yep, you're on it, are policies and procedures. Now, this can be really dry and boring, right? Who likes to sit down and read through your district's policy and procedure manual? Nobody. Sometimes it's an archaeological dig to find the thing in your district office. But usually there's some specific tasks, duties, or responsibilities that are laid out in there. As far as maybe the manager is responsible for this, the bookkeeper is responsible for this, or something is assigned to another staff person to make sure it gets done. You'll find it in the policies and procedures. So an example might be in your policy book that all grievances from staff need to be directed to the manager first as a place to handle those, right? Well, that's important for the manager to know that's written in there and be ready to handle that when it comes. So make sure you drive down through the policies and procedures, dust those off, be familiar with what's in them, because you may be tagged with tasks in there. And if you're not aware of that, how can you fulfill those, right? So your third key, your district's policy and procedure book. Go on to the next one. The fourth key, and this is the big one. This is like a giant iron ancient castle key that unlocks everything, is our statute. And that's RCW 8908. Now, why is there a giant truck on here? Some of you have probably heard this said a few times, that our statute is so big, you can drive a truck through it. You can do anything, as long as it doesn't say in there, no, you cannot do this specific thing, right? And that's a bonus, that's a benefit. Not all states have that flexibility. If you don't know, that's called a ute, by the way. Giant truck. This is super important. That statutory authority gives you the framework of what you can do as a district. It also gives us the framework for what we can do with the commission too, by the way. We're joined at the hip in that statute right there. That bigger picture and broader framework is super important in defining your lane, right? What are we supposed to be doing as a conservation district? It's in there. So that's really important. You've got those first three, but the statute is huge, right? Always go back to the statute and take a look at that. It's kind of interesting that the auditor's office actually requires districts to review this once a year. There's a reason for that. It's important, right? That's your grounding right there. So let's jump to the next one, Corey. So we've got those four keys, right? Your job description, your delegation of authority, your policies and procedures, the statute. Jump to the next one. What else? What am I missing? What have you all used to help you figure out your lane? What was helpful to you? Anybody want to share any experiences you've had besides those four things? What helped you figure it out?
The local community, and what their lots of needs and what they need help with.
Okay, good example. So for those on the line, the local community was helping to define that district's lane, right? Needs and wants. Anything else?
Source says other managers.
Other managers, mentors, right? Those people out there who can tell you, wow, you don't want to do X. Because I did that. That didn't work out really well, right? Or you can share, hey, this is a way as a manager that I talked to my board about what my lane is supposed to be as a manager and where the line is drawn, especially for a district manager, between what the board wants to have a grip on and have their fingers on and what they want you as a manager to be able to just go out and get it done, right? Tell us how it went, but get it done. So any other comments online?
Authorized signature forms, annual plan of work, the long range plan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's jump to the next one. Yes.
So grants for the work and budgets.
Okay.
We've been doing a lot of work, managing budgets.
Okay.
Putting in systems and processes in place, and making sure it's staying within.
Okay.
The
Okay. So for those online, the comment was grant scopes of work, right? Grants and contracts, scopes of work really clearly lays out what you need to do for that pot of funding. Mike, did you have your hand up? Okay. Excellent. All right. Now we've got some things to help you define your lane. let's talk about some main areas of district management where you might need to or want to sharpen your skills, right? This is sort of like, now you know what your lane is, but you're starting out in a go-kart in that lane, right? But you really want the Corvette. So you have to learn how to drive fast on that road in the Corvette, right? It's like, let's get to the performance vehicle from the go-kart. So some areas here to help you understand the framing of your vessel. If you think of your district as you're sailing a ship, you don't want it to be the Titanic. That was another presentation. Different areas where you might want to sharpen your skills to where you're getting to that performance vehicle on the road. And I want to plug here, speaking of the Titanic, that was the opening of another presentation that I did at Wade last year, which was all virtual. So what was recorded, it's posted online. It was called Management and Manager Training Resources. So it's out there if you want to go take a look at it. It'll help you get to that performance vehicle level, where to go to get those pieces of information. Go ahead and jump to the next one. This is just, I know the screen is tiny, right? But this is the Wade website. So, and this is the section of presentations from last year, from 2021. There's a great leadership and management section, and there's a whole bunch of different topics there that you can choose from, all pre-recorded. So you can watch these at 2 a.m. if you have insomnia. It will help you sleep, I promise. But it's out there for you to help you figure out where to go and get information. And I would not be the regional manager coordinator at the commission if I didn't plug the regional managers at least once, right? So what you're seeing on your screen is the coverage map. So you know who your person is, who your regional manager is at the commission, but occasionally we do take a day off. So in a pinch, any regional manager, right? Your hair's on fire, something's imploding. Oh my gosh, I need help. And I've 1-800 called Shauna and she's not picking up the phone. How? That's not allowed. She's not supposed to take the day off. Well, call Mike, call Alyssa, call Jean, call Josh. You will get one of us to help you put out your fire, right? And this is online. So if you're new and you're like, gosh, who was that person again? Who was that? You can go and look here. Our phone numbers, our emails are all listed there. So we've got open road, right? You figure out the keys to your lane. You know what those are. You've got resources, who to call to help you sharpen your performance driving skills so you can get to the open road. So you're not bouncing off the curbs, you're not hitting the rumble strips. Wide open. I drove this road yesterday, Highway 2. I did not see that awesome sunset though. So I hope that helped a little bit. But we have time, right? Because I am never a 1-hour talker, ever. I don't think I could talk for an hour if I had to. So there's time for open discussion. What's on your mind? Anything you want to share about figuring out your lane? Any experiences you've had for those of you in the room who might be seasoned? I promise I won't pick on you. You'll have to volunteer. Now's your chance. Anything you want to talk about?
I'll chime in, Shauna.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, I think one thing that we have found in our district is great to work through, you know, your position description and your policies and get all that down in writing, which is important. But then revisiting it often. So I think, you know, Shauna mentioned that with your position description. Like, when's the last time you actually looked at it? So we've built in a series of different ways to do annual reviews and evaluation to every level of the organization, you know, staff, you know, director and the board of supervisors, where that process is constantly, at least annually, referring us back to those position descriptions, whether even our board position description, you know, our individual staff. And I think building that into the evaluation process has really helped keep things alive and fresh because yeah, you get off the road when there's not a common understanding of what the lanes are and what those roles are. And that can create a lot of potential conflict and you have better things to do with your time than to try to, you know, pull someone out of the mud and get back on the road. So But I don't know, that, building those kind of annual evaluations to constantly redirect people back to review the latest.
And conservation district operations are so dynamic, right? You might have been hired into the district with a vision of the position looks like X. And maybe you started there and you did that kind of work for a couple of years, but then a new opportunity came around, someone left, some tasks, got moved around. It's really common at a conservation district, especially when you're not, 50 people and you can really diversify. Good to keep checking back on that position description and updating it as needed, so you can avoid some human resources pitfalls, and that's probably a talk for another day. And a different expert up here at the front of the room. So a lot of value to keeping those position descriptions current, because it's the roadmap that keeps everybody on the road, right? You won't end up off in the gravel lane and the mud pit. Okay. Other thoughts, comments, questions? Nate?
I'm NRCS, so it's similar across industry, I believe. I came in, retired military, no history of ag. And so when I came into NRCS, it was all new. And I just like to reiterate the point of the importance of like mentorship and building relationships when it comes to figuring all this stuff out. Because I couldn't have done it without Austin and Keith Criswell and all these folks spending immense amounts of time helping me figure out what is the lane and how to drive it appropriately. And it's interesting because like I came in with COVID and it's all teleworking and all this stuff, but learning more about how all the conservation districts work, those relationships, I can't imagine are just restricted to one office, but reaching out from conservation district to conservation district, or knowing who the mentors and experts are in various fields and stuff, at least synonymous across industry. And it was, that's been my go-to, really helped for me figure out my lane and how to be successful at it. So it's really important.
Yeah, that mentorship is huge, and I'll plug a couple things here. First, for quite a while, district managers have organically sprung up managers meetings where managers get together and you share what's going on, who's having this problem, right? And you can talk with other district managers about what's going on. Then there's also a Building Better series that sprung up last year as part of COVID, because we couldn't all get together in a room like this. We're like, gosh, there's so many things going on, so many needs, questions, areas where managers and supervisors, meaning those who supervise others, not your board members, at districts, needed help with things. So the Building Better effort sprung up, and that's a multi-agency organization, the whole 4 partnerships involved in that, WADE, WACD, the commission, and I'm going to forget somebody, WADE, WACD, the CTV, and those presentations are great. I think they went to every other month. I'm going to look at Jean and Tom to let me know, every other month now, and you can find all the information about those on the CTV website about what topics are coming up. So that's another great place where you can hear from some experts, hear from some folks who have some knowledge in different areas, and ask questions and get help. And it's just an hour or an hour and a half, right? So not a huge time investment, but you can sprinkle some of that sharpening of your performance skills through there.
We have a comment from online Tracy Kier, I think. Good communication about roles and responsibilities is critically important when new employees join the district.
Absolutely, right? Part of that orientation of, okay, now I know you applied for the job and you got hired. I just want to make sure you read the job description, right? And walking through what's in there is super key, and where that person fits with the other positions at the district. If it's not a one-man show, if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 more employees, if you're on the org chart, that's another key place to understand, well, who reports to who, and who do I go to if I have a question or a problem, right? Who can mentor me? Who else is out there?
I think that's really important, understanding other people's roles and responsibilities. That's a huge part of it too.
Good point.
More.
I think also just understanding what your personal capabilities are and, you know, just really honing in on the strengths of your own and, you know, kind of letting that be a framework for, you know, what you can accomplish and not pushing yourself too hard to, you know, learn something new or, you know, go somewhere where you have money for it, but just, I mean, we all want to improve and be better, but I think it's important too, to just really hone in on your personal skills and like that.
It's a good comment, good comment. So for those online, it's honing in on your personal skills, maybe playing to your strengths. Right? Understanding your own limitations, and that's part of the, what do I need to do to sharpen my performance vehicle driving skills, right? That self-reflection a little bit. Maybe if you're really bad on corners, you need to learn how to corner like faster, right? Then you can focus on that piece of skill building. So no, great comment.
Kind of adding to that, at Spokane Conservation, we are starting to do some Clifton Larson strength analysis or assessments.
Okay.
And one of the things that we hope to do with that, it's like 170 questions and it assesses you on 34 different strengths and then really kind of hones in on your top 5 strengths. And you know, just as a team building, you know, opportunity, but also just understanding what the different strengths each one of us has. And then, you know, understanding what those are and then capitalizing on them where we can and maybe where we aren't. So.
Makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Some of you in a district manager role may have found yourself there somewhat accidentally, right? You could have been promoted from within and you were the most knowledgeable or the longest tenured person left standing and the opening came up. And somebody said, you.
I think this has happened.
I think this has happened a few times, right? There might need to be a support group. And thinking to yourself, wow, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not cut out to be a manager. I don't consider myself a leader. Guess what? If you were tagged for that role, you've already exhibited skills in managing or leading at some point in the past, whether you did it accidentally or not, to get yourself into that role. So another thing that I also say to myself and others is be kind to yourself, right? You don't have to be everything for everybody all the time. You can maximize your strengths, work on your weaknesses, but don't hold yourself back either, right? If you don't think you're a manager or a leader, chances are, you just don't recognize it in yourself, but other people do. So give yourself that latitude, you know, as you're finding your lane. The other thing that's cool is you could always make a new road, right? You could always put pavement on a new road. You can create a whole new path, and a conservation district is kind of a cool way to do that. There's a lot of opportunities. You guys are nimble. You can sit down as a group with your board and decide, we're going to go that way. We're going to pave the highway over here. So sky's the limit. I don't know how to turn that into a road analogy, but I'll think on that one.
So we have Audrey who says, I think it's great to revisit 8908 because in our zeal to protect natural resources, we can lose focus. One example was a staff person who wanted to expand energy audits to households and maybe cost share improvements. But even though 8908 is very broad, it is clearly focused on land-based conservation. And as such, we need to value what we do because our mission is important. It's not the only important thing that needs to be done in the world of conservation, but this is our lane. It's what we do best and we need to value it.
No, great comment from Aubrey. You know, that truck that has all things natural resource conservation in it encompasses everything that our core partnership does, right? From the Farm Bill programs, things like EQIP and CRP over in NRCS land, to commodity buffers, to urban agriculture, to, right? It can include all of those things, but there is, as Aubrey points out, eventually a sideboard on that road, right? To be mindful of. I don't think any of us want to venture into oil and gas development, for example, right? I think we would all think that's probably outside the realm of natural resource conservation, right? That doesn't really pass the test, so. Although my
Can I-
board in Alaska wanted to do that. Side story.
Can I chime in on
I
that?
think
This
that's
is
all I've got
Laura.
for you guys. Probably didn't take up the whole hour, but that's okay. Gives folks time to have those side conversations. And if you have more you want to talk about anything that you saw today, but you do not want to talk in front of the whole group, that's cool. You know where to find me or your regional manager. So, thanks. Thank you, Shauna. We have a little bit of a morning break. I think we come back at 10:30. Yep, we have risk management and George coming at 10:30 to talk about all things kind of risk management, all the hot topics. One thing I asked him specifically about was drones. I know a lot of us are growing our drone program, and so that was a new thing that I noticed on our insurance renewal this year is they specifically asked about drones. So that is something that he will touch on along with everything else, risk management. So take a little bit of a break. Do we have snacks in this break period? I'm not sure what, but stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, and we'll be back at 10:30.